Hey, and welcome back. I'm here with my oldest child, Echo, and we're going to talk about vicarious trauma today.
Hi there. My name's Echo. I am currently a university student at UC Davis. I've been here for 3 years. I'm actually technically a senior. I'm a little bit ahead of the game. So this is just a little bit of a project that I'm currently working on. I've been researching vicarious secondary trauma within first responder families. That includes firefighters, EMS, police. It includes anybody that responds to the scene first. And I just had a quick little question for you, mother. How do you handle like being that lone parent, like when you're at home and having the spouse that works in the first responder field come back into the home and then you don't know what's going on? How do you handle that? Like, what's it like?
What's it like? Well, my spouse for a long time was in command and control. So there wasn't a lot of going to incidents and a lot of having that tactile response to an emergency. However, he went back to the field recently, and thus far, thank the Lord, there hasn't been too much going on. But when he was in the field way, way back in the day, 2017, I believe, we'll talk about then, he wasn't really good about sharing what was going on with him or what had happened at work. I got a lot of my information secondhand. And so I knew what was going on at work, but he wasn't talking about it. And
Right.
so I thought everything was just hunky dory. He was fine, right? He was compartmentalizing. He was able
Yep.
to like separate the two. And so we went along our marriage for years like that, with him not talking about it, me knowing something was going on, maybe having feelings about the things that he was going through and feeling like, well, if I bring it up, then it's gonna upset him. So I didn't bring it up. And so there was not communication
Right.
going on. Fast forward to now, give an example. He has a firefighter that is going through a family crisis. He
Hmm.
literally called me from work and he was like, yo, this is what's going down. I have feelings about it. He was really upset. And like
Hmm.
10 years ago, he would have never called me from work and been like, I'm
Right.
having a rough time. Right. So part of I think our transition to home now is there I know what's going on before it ever
Hmm.
hits my front door.
Okay.
So we're really good about checking in while he's on shift. So he's working a 3-day, but it's basically 4 days because he has a day of travel. So in that 3 days, we do a phone call.
Mm.
It can be very short. It sometimes can be longer. It just depends on what's going on at the time. And we make time for that every day. So I know kind of what's going on before he comes home. And
Right.
then, we've talked about what he needs. I'm like, the 5-minute check-in on the way home. Like, what are your plans for today? What do you need when you get home? Like the things like that. And so there's a lot of communication going on for us. But it
Right.
wasn't always like that, right? We learned over the 18 years of our marriage that you have to have a plan in place.
Right.
So, what is it like for me now? Pretty easy, actually. But my kids are also not toddlers anymore. Um,
That's true too. That they're much easier to handle. They can handle themselves now.
Yeah, so if dad's having a bad day, dad can come home and be like, "Hey, I had a rough shift, like,
Mm.
I'm it all up in my head. That's why you're gonna see me be a little mopey or I'm,
Right.
gonna be outside more or whatever," and he can explain that to the teenagers in the house, whereas when you were a teenager and here, um, he wasn't really doing that, he wasn't good at it, and he'll admit that, he said he'll tell you
Right.
that, and, I was trying not to rock the boat by bringing it up, and so that caused a lot of issues, and I
Yep.
hear that from a lot of spouses. um, they don't know how to deal with that transition home, hence us having this conversation.
Yeah, so when our first responders come into the home, they have something going on at work, a bad shift. Maybe there was a death in the field, whether it was one of their fellow first responders or maybe it was somebody they were trying to save. They come home, they compartmentalize that. Like you mentioned earlier, you hear it from outside sources, whether it's like on a Facebook group chat or if it's like something on the news, But our first responder isn't telling us that. So they're coming in with this compartmentalized stress and anxiety, and we end up absorbing that. Whatever comes into the living room, we're going to be absorbing that and we're going to be feeling it. And then we start to have our own sets of fears and anxieties. If it was a death of a first responder, we're going to be looking at it like, is my first responder next? we're not having those kinds of conversations with the person that's actually in the field, but they're still coming in to the home, staying quiet, keeping them to themselves, and then with that, when they're keeping to themselves, we don't understand. We're not talking about it. So we start to step away and kind of keep to ourselves. We don't talk to our spouse about it either. We don't talk to other people because other people won't understand unless they are also in this same kind of community. And we already have our own sets of things going on at home too. The idea of being the solo or lone parent because we got the first responder out in the field right now, and then we're here with the kids, the pets, the house itself. We're having to do the cooking, the cleaning, making sure that everything's neat and tidy for when they do come home. And that causes a lot of its own set of issues. I'm sure you've experienced yourself.
Really? I had to keep house and take care of the kids? No way.
No, the magical fairy doesn't do
We're
it.
all we're all tired, okay? That's all there is to it.
Yeah, no. And that's what it is, but it's not just burnout. It is truly trauma and it is stress, Secondary trauma is strictly when the family is there and they're hearing what's going on and they're feeling those same emotions that they're feeling. And then we start to collect it and then we start to have same anxieties and feelings as them. And over time it builds up if it's not handled.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So you know Ashley Iverson.
Oh, I love Ashley.
That story
She's one of my
is a
favorite people.
fantastic story. That was really the first time that I ever experienced the feeling of, "Oh my gosh, is my spouse next?" Was when Corey
Yep.
died, for a few reasons. She had a toddler and that she was pregnant, and I guess I don't know, I just had all these feelings about it. I was emotional. I mean,
Mm,
just could not understand what I was even feeling. I mean, your dad had a lot of feelings about it too. Obviously. You do. You go through that like, "Oh my god, this firefighter just died on a fire. Is my husband next? Like,
right.
what would I do if this were to happen to me?" Like, you go through all of these, how would I take care of the kids? Oh my gosh, like, whatever. So they go to their next call and you're like, "Look,"
Yep. And then you
and
start
all
to
you're doing
worry.
is thinking about what happened to this other person,
Yep.
right?
But it's because there's so many parallels. There's so many things that are similar, They have kids, they have a first responder in the same field as you, and then not only are you dealing with your worries and fears of what's going on over there in their field of work, but then you also have your own conflicts and stuff going on at the home, work family conflict. A paper that I read, it was like a study done by Sharp. It'll be in the show notes. Spouses carry 100% of the household mental load while the responder is on shift. So while the responder is on shift and they aren't in the home, you are not only feeling the stress and anxiety of what's going on over there, you're dealing with this other entirely different thing over here and you're having to juggle. And it's a lot to juggle.
And it now you're gonna give me my soapbox, and it's expected.
Mhm.
Fire
Yeah.
service, on at least for us, the fire service, that's what my husband's in. Um, it's an expectation. It's just part of the
Yep.
job, and the job never
Yep.
stops, right?
Well, and it's almost kind of the same way. So right now, my boyfriend, he's currently a cadet at his local sheriff's office. He's soon going to be going into a post as well, coming up, I believe, in March or April. And it's almost the same kind of idea. They're over here at work and they're doing their thing. And you hear about, like, oh, I had to do a traffic stop today. There were guns involved, or, something happened. And I'm over here feeling my anxieties because I'm like, well, was he on call for that specific one, or was he just carrying it over the radio, you know? And then at the same time, I'm over here having to deal with my own stuff. I'm dealing with school, I'm currently studying and I'm like dealing with midterms. I'm dealing with exams. I have work and I'm juggling the anxieties of what he's doing over here at work, but I'm also dealing with my own stuff. And it is expected almost,
And then
because
add
like,
kids, and it's like you're dealing with everyone's stuff.
hey, I have a fur baby. So, it's kind of similar, right? No, no, and you got fur babies and you got real human babies. So, I mean, that's like a whole other can of worms. So, when you make the addition of like all these other assets to this, like soup almost, it's a really messy soup.
Yeah, and carrying 100% of the mental load at home is 100% accurate. One of the things that I did early on as a fire spouse was feel sorry for myself. There was a lot of, like,
Mhm.
pity parties going on,
Yep.
and I had someone say to me, "Nobody's coming to rescue you. Stop being a
Nope.
victim."
I think I've heard that before. I've been I've had that very same conversation, and it's very true. Nobody's gonna come save you. Only you can save yourself. And not saying that you need to leave the situation. What I'm saying is you can find resources and access things that will help you because there are resources out there, but not everybody knows like what is accessible and what isn't. And what will help, and in more cases most cases, it's going to you're gonna see people that are just gonna isolate themselves, and they're not going to seek help or community and try and fix it because they're gonna think that they're the only person that's dealing with it. Because most times, when you are in a relationship with somebody that is a first responder or they have a first responder in your family, you're not going to always have, like, friends or people outside of this household that's going to know what you're dealing with. They're not going to understand, like, when it's like having somebody that's gone for could be a couple of days, could be weeks, and then could be months, could be entire year, at a time, and not understanding like what it's like to not have both people in the household, and then you're dealing with all this stuff at home. You're not going to have those people that are going to understand what it's like when somebody dies in the service and they were really close to your first responder and they come home and they are feeling like all this anxiety and survivor's guilt because that could have been them, but now they're still here and this person's not, and then they're feeling that they could have done something to prevent that, but they couldn't. They don't know what it's like to have that going on at the home.
Nope, and their favorite saying when they don't understand is, "That's what they signed up for."
But it's not. It's not what they
It's
signed up
not.
for. You go in knowing that stuff happens, but you don't know that stuff is going to be happening to you.
And you don't know what your response to that is going to be until you have to respond to it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and that's frankly the climate of it. And when the first responder comes home, their mood is going to dictate exactly what the family's feeling as well. It's like a sponge. When they come into the room exuding this negative energy, whether they're depressed, anxious, stressed, tired, exhausted, whatever they're putting into the room, everybody in the room is going to be feeling it because it's like an overarching thing. When they're at work, we have our own mood. We have our own things going on. We have watched a movie together. We are talking about it. We have our inside jokes. We have our own ecosystem. And then when you introduce something that hasn't been there for a long time, it's almost like a poison, and it infects the room. It infects the room, and everybody starts to feel that same exact thing.
And it's not every time. That's the problem with the
Nope.
transition to
It's
home.
so
They
unpredictable.
might have a fantastic shift. They might
Yeah.
have a shift where something happened and it might affect their partner, but it didn't affect them. Then next week, it's they had a terrible shift. It's
Yep.
never the same twice. You never
Nope.
know what you're going to get, but you know what you're getting the second they walk in the door. I can
Yep. So you're
tell how
Yep.
the day's going to go the second that person walks in the door.
Yep. You start to have this innate instinct of knowing exactly what's going to happen the second that door opens. The way the door opens, the way that their footsteps sound coming up the stairs. And that's because you start to develop hypervigilancy and you're constantly on your toes. And once they come into the house, you have to analyze exactly what it's going to be like, and you're almost walking on eggshells.
Yep. And that's why that 5-minute phone call, that 5-minute check in, the visual is a battery. How full is my
Exactly.
battery? So you call and are you a one to five? Like,
Yep.
is your mood five is being the best, one is being the worst?
Yep.
And how much energy do you have to expend with the family today, right now?
Right.
So yeah, I've been talking a lot about a capacity over the last like 6 months and really understanding what my capacity is
Mhm.
and what my kids' capacity is because we're capable. We might just not have the capacity to do the things. So, what is the first responders' capacity when they're walking in the door to say, go to the park with their kids right now? Or
Yep.
do they have the capacity to run around in the backyard? Do they have the capacity to fix the leaky faucet
Yep.
that has been dripping for the last 48 hours and is driving you nuts? And likewise, do you have the capacity to receive your first responder into the home and
Yep.
all of the things that they bring with them right now? What is your energy level is? Maybe,
Yep.
you've been up all night with the baby screaming because they're
Yeah.
teething right now. And or maybe you've had something going on personally. Maybe you've had a sick mother or a friend died or
Lord
whatever.
knows what.
that shift. So you have your own energy that is happening, right?
Mhm.
So what is your capacity to deal with this person coming back into the family and trying to reintegrate?
Yeah, and what's interesting there too, you mentioning capacity. Another paper that I read by Rensk in 2017, they did a study, and what they found is you have to set boundaries. You have to understand your limits, and you have to be able to communicate those limits with your spouse and figure out what other limits there are in the family. Like you mentioned your kids as well. You have to know what your capacity is. You have to know whether you are at the one when you walk in or if you're a five. And depending on where you're at, you have to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about that today when we walk in? And while that seems like
Well,
it's
one
a
of the
tedious
easiest
task,
things to do is nobody's cooking dinner or ordering a pizza.
I love me some pizza, honestly. A pizza night is a pizza night, and I don't mind. And frankly, that sometimes that's even just enough. Frankly, it could be as tedious or as simple as it like you guys need to be, but you have to figure out what's your dynamic, what works for your family, and that can be a little daunting. But once you get into that groove and flow and habit of knowing your limits and communicating, you're able to get to order that pizza. The sooner you get to order the pizza and just be done with it, you don't have to cook. You don't have to do dishes. Hello, paper plates.
Oh, dude, paper plates are like, I don't know why the heck I was washing dishes when you guys were toddlers. What? I mean, I had a dishwasher. What was I thinking?
Breaking dishes. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? Right? Like, I'll be breaking dishes up in here. Like, why did
No,
I not
literally.
use paper plates? It was like the
Yeah.
easiest fix to the biggest problem in the whole house.
Yep. Yeah, and that's like you have to understand that you don't have to be doing the stereotype like spouse at home doing the dishes and doing the cleaning. It can be simple as, "Hey, we're ordering a pizza tonight. Hey, we're going to go to Taco Bell and get like crunch wraps." Like,
It could be as
I
easy
love that.
as doing the robot vac instead of pushing the vacuum. Like, I
I got two.
love a firewife friend that's also a mom rage coach.
Real.
So, postpartum depression, mom rage.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she said is your community is whatever helps you get through the shift. So the Uber driver is part of my community, right? My robot vac, Alfred over here, he is my community.
And valid, dude. I got two vacuums out there. I got one that mops. I got one that just vacuums. Little butler and little maid.
Yep.
Love those things.
And,
Fantastic.
maybe if you can afford it, the housekeeper that comes once a week is part of your community.
Yeah.
Paper plates are part of your community. Like anything that you can outsource is part of your community. And
Yep.
that's not to say we're going to use paper plates every day because we don't. But
Yeah.
also doing dishes is kind of therapeutic now because I've been doing it for so long. Sometimes I'm like, dude, why do I have to do another dish? But that's not the point. The point is you have to figure out what works for you,
Mhm.
like you said. And that is something that also evolves over time. Maybe it's just you and your first responder right now, and you don't have kids yet. And so right now you're just trying to figure out how to, live with each other. But then when you add that baby, how does that then change the transition from work to home? Like, all of that is a huge balancing act. And it's constantly evolving. So you're going to learn over time. And unfortunately, sometimes we learn the hard way. Um, it's just part of it.
And sadly, you don't really get to that point until you start to put a name on it and you start to realize like, "Hey, this isn't normal. This should be something that we can get through. Like, here's how." Because if you don't, you end up just drawing yourself. You end up like being like, "Okay, I don't know how to deal with this." They clearly don't wanna deal with this because they seem like they got everything together and they seem like they're doing fine. I'm gonna withdraw myself, and that's a defense mechanism. In the same paper, that I read, it was done in 2017, using withdrawal as a defense and dipping away from the reality of it all and understanding, like, this isn't going anywhere. It's not gonna change unless you actually try to actively change it, and once you do, it will start to change over time. New things might come up, new things might go away. It's not going to be a straight and narrow path down the thing, it's going to be a wavy road with a bunch of forks in it. Hopefully plastic forks.
And speed
Yeah,
bumps.
bumps too. Yeah, lots of speed bumps. A lot of things are going to get in the way.
Even their careers constantly changing. Promotions happen, like
Mhm.
Oh, here's our normal. Oh, by the way, no, it's not. Here's your normal.
Yeah. Yeah, and we get so burnt out from being hypervigilant and, like, waiting for the next thing to come up, when's the next speed bump? You're looking straight ahead and you can see a bunch of them, but maybe one of them goes away before you get there. But you never know because it's unpredictable. And then you start to realize, like, yourself is getting burnt out, you're not sleeping, you're not getting the rest that you need, you're starting to be kind of cynical. You start to get a little aggravated with your family, even your spouse that's coming home. You start snapping at people. What's one of the biggest red flags that you've seen yourself or with others when that kind of happens?
For me, every year I know when fire season's getting close because I start to feel it in my body. I start to have a little bit more of a rapid heart rate. I will feel a little fidgety more than
Right.
usual. Doom and gloom kind of starts like, oh my God, fire season's coming. He's going to be gone for 17 days straight, like whatever
Yep.
it is. Gosh, I need to start thinking about how I'm going to get the kids from here to there, or I have weddings coming up. How am I going to handle being in a wedding and also having kids at home?
Yeah.
And then how am I going to make time for him when he's home, when he can be home? And so that hypervigilance kind of starts. So the red flag for me is when I start to get more anxious. And then also there's this unspoken tension that starts to happen. Like the irritability, I can find myself getting more irritated more
Yep.
easily. And it's like this pressure plate, right? And so then I just have to say, whoa, 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 wait a minute. You've done this before. You've been here before. You've survived it. And you have to really tell yourself it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yep. You've done it before. It's nothing new. You can just go into it knowing exactly what you need to do. And if you don't know exactly what you need to do, that's okay as well, because not everybody is going to have the answers that you need, and it's not going to be expected of you to have those answers. You don't have to have this like high bar of like being in the know of exactly what you have to do when those things kind of come up. The fact that you are acknowledging those red flags early on, because those are like definitely early stages of what you're feeling when you start to have stresses and anxieties and that trauma starts to really bubble up and fester. Those are very early signs, which is great that you catch those early on, because when you do, you're like, okay, I need to stop for a second and acknowledge that I've done this before. And because I have, I know what to do.
Well, and also just acknowledging the fact that you aren't going to do it alone. At least for
Mm-mm.
me, I'm not going to do it alone. I have teenagers now. They are very capable of helping. They help me tremendously all the time. And so I don't need to get so fritzed out to where I'm trying to keep all the balls in the air and moving all the time. And then having the things in place that you need. I love to cook. We both know this. I'm probably not going to make as elaborate dinners
Right.
as I would if he were home. And I might order takeout more than I would usually. Trader Joe's 3 ingredient meals are real, right?
See, now you're speaking my language because I love Trader Joe's. I have a Trader Joe's right down the road from me. And let me tell you, you're going to see me in there every weekend. And then I'm going to hop my way over to Target because they got goodies. They got goodies.
Yeah.
And I go on TikTok, I'm scrolling, and I see that dumpling bake. I see some like really good
That
pasta
dumpling
that I want
egg
to make.
is good.
Takes 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
It's
Done.
good.
Put in the oven. Like it's so good. It's so easy. And it's fun. Brings a
And
little
I
joy.
think the biggest thing is control the controllables and realize there are things that just are completely out of your control.
Do
Uh,
what you can, because if you focus on things that you cannot control, you can't control other people, you can't control things that aren't actively right there that you can deal with. If you stress about that, you're going to be very unhappy. Don't worry about that stuff. Don't worry about what other people are thinking. Don't worry
and
about what other people
put
are
the
doing.
blame
Just,
where it belongs, right? The blame where it belongs. The
yeah.
blame is not on the firefighter that has to go to work that is providing for your family. The blame is the fire or the fire service for the overtime that they are accruing, but also work yourself at the end of that long haul. So one of the things that, as you know, we've always done is when fire season's kind of starting to calm down, we all give ourselves a
A little
vacation to
break,
pause.
a little sweet treat. Get
Yeah,
yourself a sweet
right.
treat, whether that is a vacation or if that is just a quick little drink at Dutch Bros or Starbucks, whichever you prefer. Like a sweet treat is deserved.
And everyone in the family deserves one.
Yeah.
The other thing that I used to do with the kids when he'd get stuck on a fire is, do you remember when we'd go to the grocery store and we'd fill the shopping cart with candy?
Yeah. Candy and
And
snacks.
then we'd come home and we'd watch whatever movie marathon we felt like that day. Usually it was Avengers or Star Wars.
Yup. I think one time we did when WandaVision was first coming out. That's like the most like recent one that I remember. I'm not binge watching anything right now. I've been crammed with
Oh,
exams
you're doing
and
your
all the fun stuff. So
yeah.
I'm busy. So I don't get to do that. But I still give myself a sweet treat, you know? Keegan, my boyfriend, just recently had to go through surgery. He had an appendectomy. I was stressed out of my mind. And then like once I realized I was stressed, I was like, hold on. I can't control what's going on over there. We're gonna just let that happen, let the doctors do what they gotta do, and I'm gonna be over here, and I'm gonna make some tea. I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna watch a movie or something. I'm gonna mind my business because I don't need to be stressing about that, and I need a sweet treat.
So the other thing that I also do, when I start to feel that anxiety rising is I make sure to exercise every day.
Yep.
That's 20, 30 minutes of just getting the heart rate pumping, getting those endorphins going.
If you got a dog, walk the dog. If you don't have a dog, take a walk anyway. Go for a hike. Even if it's not just walking around, getting outside and like going somewhere, driving somewhere, that's fine too. But I definitely agree, like getting the blood pumping. But just getting outside of the same four walls in general is great.
I don't know if you remember this when you were little too. We would take the kids for the walk. We lived like a little under half of a mile from the park. So we would walk to the park, the kids to play at the playground, and then we'd walk home. So if you're a mom or dad at home and your spouse is out of the house and you are there with the kids and you need to exercise, get them involved, take them with you.
And it's something to do. So your brain's not going to wander elsewhere. What you should be doing is keeping busy. If you constantly just stay in the same four walls and you stay in the dark and you're scrolling on like TikTok or whatever social media and you see something that revolves around what you are going to be worrying about, you're going to worry about it. Put the phone down, go outside, touch some grass because that
And if you can't
genuinely
go
is so
outside
real.
because it's raining, find something enjoyable at home. So for me, I know that I need to keep busy and I've been trying to stay off of my phone as much as possible. It's really difficult when you're a content creator, by the way.
It's really
10 out of
difficult when you're a college student. I feel it.
so, that being said, one of the ways that I started doing that this year is I've started getting into making sourdough bread. Because
Yes, and I've had the sourdough bread. It's good.
it's a process, right? And
It
I
is.
do donuts and loaves, so it's stretch and folds. It's a process. So 2 things are happening. I'm using my hands, so very tactile, and then I'm also keeping busy with that, so I'm not focusing on other things. And I know a lot of first responder spouses that bake. That's just their coping mechanism.
Now, have we named the sourdough starter yet?
No,
So you've been baking this long and you haven't named it. Like everybody that I see that has like a sourdough starter, they've named it, except for my grandmother. But I think that's just because she's a grandmother.
no,
Well, I think you need to.
yeah,
Maybe, I see like a lot of like feminine names. Maybe it should be a masculine name like Chief.
chief, okay.
Or, like maybe Captain. Baking's not really my thing, but I love to cook. And I like to find new recipes. I like to try new things. I used to be the biggest picky eater, and I hated pickles, but recently I love pickles. I will eat pickles all day, and I like to discover new pickled things I like to eat. And I love making sandwiches right now for whatever reason. Something that I've learned personally is communication is key, but it's okay if you don't know everything. Sometimes it's okay to just be in the dark about some things. That way you're not worrying as much. Sometimes you just have to know, and that's perfectly fine too. Me personally, though, I prefer to not know every single nitty gritty detail.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I got over that scanner thing, like, first year. Like, first year dad was in the field, I was like, "This is just making me even more anxious.
Mm.
I cannot be checking." At the time, it was Hot
Yeah.
List. Now it's, what's the Watch Duty app?
I don't know.
Or
I turned that off. I don't have that. I like block websites and I block apps on my phone and like emails and stuff. Whenever something like that comes up like on my feed, gone. I block it, and then it doesn't show up again because I don't want
Yeah,
that in my algorithm. I don't want that in my feed because I know what it's gonna do. It's gonna stress me out and it's going to make me worry. And I shouldn't be worrying when I have a bunch of other stuff that I could be worrying about that I can actually control.
right. Right. And there are some people that they find comfort in knowing, so like you
Yeah.
said, it's not one size fits all. If you listen to the
Nope.
scanner and that brings you some kind of comfort, good for you.
Go for
I
it.
turned it off because my nervous system can't handle it. It just makes me spiral. And
Yep.
that's not a good feeling to have.
Yeah.
It's just not. So,
No.
and like you said,
It's
there's better things I can be doing with my time rather than worrying about what your dad's doing at work.
things that could be happening at work. Like if they're forced on, if there's a big wildfire, if there's case going on in some big city and it's really dangerous, you could be worrying about that. And yeah, on one hand, you're gonna have like that base level worry, but then it gets to a point where it's gonna be excessive and you don't want to be here. It's okay to be here, it's not okay to be here. When you start to excessively worry and that's all you're hyper focused on, almost tunnel vision on that thing, you start to neglect other things around you, and that's when it starts to become a problem, and that's when it does start to become your fault, because if you're not actively dealing with it at the beginning, when it's, like, right here, you're just baseline worrying and, like, accepting that's okay, you have to, like, work on it constantly.
And that's getting back to capacity. You have to know what your capacity is, and only you know that,
Yep.
for yourself, and you might not know what makes you hit your capacity, and, like, for me, I just realized, "Whoa, this listening to the scanner thing is just causing my anxiety to go up and up and up."
Sometimes it's very blaringly obvious, and then in other times, it's very subtle.
Yeah, and then one of the things that for me personally, when you guys were little, is the noise of, fire spouses that I was friends with, and there was the group chats even back then, and I would literally take us to a beach where there was absolutely no service.
Back to going outdoors. Getting outdoors is such a great thing because it's so quiet, it's peaceful. The serenity of it is so healing, and the quiet, it just turns your brain off for a moment, and it's like everything goes away. It's a good break. It's okay to take breaks.
Yeah, we did a lot. That's why we went to Casper Beach because there is absolutely 0 service at Casper
Yeah.
Beach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no cell service, you can't have your phone, and that's another thing too, is setting that boundary of when the first responder does come home. Are we putting the phones away? Because we know what they have on their phones. They get a bunch of emails, they have to answer them, phone calls, text messages, group chats, we're glued to our phone. And our first responder is expected they're going to be also glued to their phone. Are we putting that down? Are we going to put that down and are we going to take a break from that? Is there something that we actually have to have our phone here right now, though? You have to have that kind of conversation. You're not going to know exactly what they're needing or what their capacity is at the moment, just like they're not going to know yours. You have to have that open communication of like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what's going on. This is what we should try to be doing.
how did you feel personally about the no cell phones at the dinner table rule?
Okay, at the time or now?
At
Because
the time. You didn't like it at the
okay.
time, we know.
At the
You
time,
hated
I
it.
didn't like it at all because as a kid, I didn't understand. I just wanted my phone. I wanted to be on social media. I wanted to watch a video on my phone or something. But now, I think it's really great to put the phone down because Keg and I, when we go out to dinner, we don't have our phones out. At most, if we have our phones out, is like we have to like quickly look something up to show each other something. But it's we want to be there with each other, not with our phones. I see couples, just normal couples as well, that aren't in first responder field. They're on their phones at the table together, like across from each other, and they're looking at their phones, not at each other, and they're not talking to each other. That's beyond me, and I think that's because I did grow up where when you're at the table, the phone is off. It goes away. So, it's just so weird seeing it elsewhere, but I know why it's not a good thing because I don't wanna be that. So, Keegan and I, we put our phones away and we talk to each other. That's a moment for us to like wind down, have a good time, connect with each other, and not be glued to something that is so controlling in our lives. if we don't have our phones, we're naked. I'd rather not be focused on whatever I have over on my phone. I want to be focused with the person that I don't get to see because he's at work constantly.
So I think that's one of the hard parts for first responders. Like you said, there's 100 emails a day. And then depending on their rank, they're also, responsible for other people. And so they do have a propensity to always have their phone with them or their phone is constantly going off. So one of the things that we've always done is like, hey, well, we're going to go on a date. It's an hour. The phone can be put away for an hour. You can send a
Yep.
text message to people and be like, I'm taking my wife on a date.
Yeah.
Or I'm not available from this time to this time because I have something going on at home and I'm off duty.
I've fallen off the face of the map. Phone off, location off. Like I'm gone right now. You
Yeah,
will
like
not find
yeah,
me.
it's an hour. If your
It's an hour.
staff can't handle an hour without you, I would argue they're in the wrong field.
2 hours even. 2 hours even. Like they do not need you in that very moment unless the world is ending, which I doubt it is.
We've been in that situation, but
We've been in that situation before, and did they need you? No, because they got a bunch of other people too. So when it is like a small town department or something, it's a little different. But even then, 2 hours, the smaller the department, the less likely something's going to be happening anyway.
right. So I think that just having that rule, and then I mean more often than not. So I don't know if you know this, but when they kind of start to rise in ranks, there's two phones. So they have their personal phone and then they have their work phone, and
Yeah.
the work phone can be an issue. So, again, both
Yeah.
of those phones are on silent. They're put away for the duration of that
Yeah.
date or whatever we have going on that's important that needs full
Yep.
and undivided attention. Your dad is super good about that. I don't have to remind him very often.
Thank goodness. And frankly, that's a skill. That is a skill in of itself.
Yeah. I mean, he does. He checks his phone, but has a designated space where he leaves it. When he's focused on doing something, he does not attend to that phone.
Amazing.
I do know that that is like a constant argument in a lot of first responder houses.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that we set those limitations really early on. And one of my big things is we will sit down together as a family, regardless if dad is home or not, and we will have dinner. Like, that that's like one
Right.
of my, and it might not be we're not sitting at the dinner table, but we're all in the kitchen. Like, we're all going to be,
Yeah.
you're eating dinner together and enjoying a good meal because that's
Right.
our time as a family. Um, And, sometimes it's more than that, but that was my whole thing, like, the phones go away. Your brothers get super annoyed when we're watching a show and somebody's on their phone. Like,
I know that,
it's
and I know that because when Keegan and I have visited, him and I will be on the couch and we'll be on our phones, like scrolling like through TikTok and sending them because we're not watching the movie. But they get so mad when they see us on our phones, and we're like, oh, okay, and we put them down because it's like we're in this mindset of put the phone away. We're spending time together right now. We're not spending solo time. And that's how it is here as well. Obviously, Keegan and I, we don't live together yet. But the moment that like we are hanging out, phone's off. I turn that on do not disturb. I have my ringer off and I don't look at it. If I have something that I need to be like worrying about, I set specific notifications to get through. Because you can do that on most phones. You can make it to where it's, like, in focus mode, and you can focus on certain things, so I still get that email that I need. I have a contract to sign, or I have a phone call that's coming up for an appointment, and that's perfectly fine. If you have, like, things that you have to handle, that's one thing. But if there's things that you don't have to be handling, phone's down, face down.
go touch grass. That's the theme of that's the theme of this conversation.
Oh, yeah. Genuinely, go touch grass. That's such a good answer because it's true. Get some vitamin D, and if the sun's not out and it's raining for whatever reason, it's fine, find something else to do inside. Bake, cook,
Play a
draw.
board game.
That's an that's a new thing that I'm doing right now as well. So, it's technically not like a physical board game. I don't have the space to hold board games at the moment, but I've discovered just doing tabletop games through our phones, but I still have my notifications off and everything, and you can still play those board games. Uno, Monopoly, or something. Doing something where you are actively engaging with the other person.
And it's a really great thing to do when they're on duty, like, if they have their soft time or downtime. Dad and I will play Rummy Cube
Yeah, yeah.
online. And, we play Rummy Cube at home. We have a stack of board games we'll play. Do a jigsaw puzzle.
It's genuinely doing small things with your person. Find something to do together. I think that's another thing too. If you're like in a long distance relationship with a first responder, finding things you can still do together, even though you're not there, also really helps because you're still connecting with that person and engaging with them in some capacity, which is really important. Keegan and I were young, so we like to play video games. So we do games together. We call each other, we check in. Sometimes we'll like do movie dates. My favorite thing to do right now is like I'll have this like app that I use on my computer, and when we connect together with it, our Netflix syncs up. So then we can watch the movie together at the same time and we'll order takeout. We'll be in totally different spaces, but we're still spending time together in some capacity while he's away. So it really does help if you are finding things to do together, even when there's a distance in between.
Yeah, my spouse works 4.5 hours from here, so I can't just pick up and go to the station. A lot of people will go for holidays or birthdays or
Yep.
whatever. I'm not gonna do the 4.5 hour drive. It's a long drive over windy roads, a lot of
Winding
traffic.
mountainous, a lot of traffic.
Yeah,
And
and
in this weather, too, right now, the roads get icy, they're wet, they're slick. It's just not, no bueno.
nobody's driving 4.5 hours to go have Christmas dinner. So if they're stuck on duty on Christmas, we're FaceTiming
And while it sucks, the reality of it is you have to find what works.
and control the controllables.
Another thing too is sometimes doing those small things and doing what you can, sometimes it isn't enough. Sometimes you do have to find outside help and even professional help. It's not going to be one size fits all either. Sometimes you have to go from one to another to see what does work for you, whether that's traditional talk therapy, something involving animals, music and art therapy is sometimes productive as well. From what I've heard, in most cases, you're going to want something tactile because first responders need something that they can really get their hands on and be in the nitty gritty of it because there's going to be these walls up. And when they're talking to a stranger, sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes they need something that they can actually really get into with their hands.
Yeah, so music therapy is really great for that. Drums. I've heard drums are like a big deal.
I saw something earlier this week, cooking therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
Hey, sign me up. There are so many different forms of therapy that you can do and it still gets the job done. You just have to figure out what works for you. And like sometimes like if therapy's not enough, there's like other means like medication. And sometimes that's just what you have to do. But it's a matter of knowing if you aren't able to handle everything right now in the home, if you can't do it all yourself and if you guys can't work it out all together, sometimes you just have to find that thing outside of the house. And that's perfectly fine. That's normal. It's not something to really be frowned upon because secondary trauma from the first responder, it's a biological response to a situation that isn't normal. It's not something that's normal for you. So it's perfectly okay to be like, yeah, I think maybe I should explore these other means of help. And that's perfectly fine.
We've done a lot of therapy here.
I have been in and out of therapy for different reasons. Sometimes you start it up, sometimes you turn it off and you don't need it for a little while. And then something comes up and then you need it again. And that's perfectly fine too. Mental health
Mm.
isn't, I'm going to fix it and it's fixed forever. Our brains are constantly changing, our bodies are constantly changing. So as time goes on, something like a speed bump, like we mentioned earlier, something might come up and that might put like a monkey wrench into the gears and we have to take a second to fix it. If that means you have to go back to therapy, that's fine. That's fine.
You remember that we're all experiencing life for the first time. Like, even though I'm 40
Yeah.
years old, I am experiencing life the way it is for the very first time. So I don't know what I don't know, and I don't know how to handle everything. I
Nope.
don't have an answer for everything.
Yep.
And the nice thing about therapy is the therapist has answers and modalities and things that can help. And if they don't, they'll find it.
Can concur. That's my entire field. Our entire job is to find those kinds of answers so that they don't have to. And when there's something that I don't understand or I haven't tackled before, I go into the textbooks. I go find scientific journals and I read, and you yourself could even do that, If you can't afford it, you can very well do the research on your own too. It doesn't hurt anything.
There's probably an app.
I have an app to know when I need to water my basil. There's an app for everything. And genuinely, when it comes to mental health and psychology, when you don't have the answers, we find a way to provide them to you.
One of the things I get asked a lot is if you could give one piece of advice to a new spouse or to someone thinking about marrying a firefighter, what would you say? And I would say, get a therapist now. Get on the books with a therapist now. It's not a matter of if you're going to need a therapist, it's a matter of
You
when.
will.
I believe in first responder life. And if you already have established care, when you get to the road bump, because you will, that person you will already have established care with, so you're not gonna have to be on their waiting list.
Yep.
Get it now.
The other thing too, though, with that being said, when you are looking for mental health care, make sure that they are culturally competent when it does come to first responders. Because, like I said before, you are going to find difficulty in talking to other people about what it's like when they aren't themselves dealing with it or are aware of what it's really like. So if you go into care with a therapist and they don't know anything about this community, that's not going to get you anywhere.
You ask them what culturally competent means because they may have taken a CE course that was like,
Yeah.
8 hours versus actually being culturally competent, and
Mhm.
you don't wanna find out, the hard way.
That they
So,
just took like a short, like 8-hour course that they took online in some kind of module. No, no. And that's the reality of it is you can't be culturally competent just from reading. You can be, but just from a short module and like a quick thing just to get a certification, it's not enough. It's genuinely not
just that
enough. You
one
have to
one in resilience is not gonna cut it.
nope, you have to have experience. You have to have experience of some kind.
Yeah.
And that's what you should look for when you are looking for mental health care and it does pertain to your first responder family life.
Yeah, I would also recommend that if you have an employee assistance program that, can
Yes.
recommend culturally competent providers, that is where I would start.
The beauty of mental health is it's never going to be a straight and narrow path. You're going to be branching off onto so many forks in the road. And honestly, that's why I enjoy it because it's not just one thing. There's so many different cases and there's so many different people out in the world. While we might have similar experiences, we might have similar things going on in our lives, we're going to be different.
Yep. I think that's been the theme of this podcast is find what works for you and your family, and that's good enough. You don't have to try to fit into some mold that somebody wants to put you in or you're trying to put yourself in.
Take your time, go at your own pace and go with the flow. And you're not crazy.
You're not crazy. This shit is hard.
This shit's hard. This shit is not
It
for the
is
weak,
hard.
and if you are in it and you are doing it, you are a strong person, you are a strong individual. Let me tell you, because it is not for the weak. So, my closing note is understand that this isn't something that you're dealing with by yourself. There's a lot of people that are dealing with this as well. Secondary trauma is very real, and you can ask anybody, and whether they know the name of it or not, they're probably dealing with it when they are a first responder family. You can find community very easily. There's Facebook groups. I know that my mom has a lot of resources. You can also check the show notes as well. I will be providing some articles on here as well that just kind of like talk about it briefly. I think I have a scientific journal that's all the way in Europe. So it's very real, it's very normal.
I think that's it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.